Well, welcome back for another 7th grade drawing project session. We're getting pretty close to being done with the actual drawing portion of this, and then you're going to start detailing it out for a few sessions after that, and then that will be the end of the drawing unit, and we will have a quiz like we do with every other unit and evaluate the project that we've done. So when last we left off, we had completed this particular building in that they finished out some of the doors, as I recall, and windows, and then we moved on to this building right here, City Hall, church, library, bookstore, whatever it is in your school, perhaps in your village here, and then we did the sidewalks with the cutouts and the little ramp that shows how you can get up in between the buildings, and then same thing over here. We finished these out, so then we used measurements so that they would be symmetrical on both sides of the street. A little more complex work in here as you go up into the fire station or auto repair place, whatever it is in your town. And then we did the stripes on the street. We started out by finding out where the very middle of it was and measuring off a ½ centimeter in each direction, erasing that mark and replacing it with these marks, and then 1 centimeter to each side of that. And then from the vanishing point we drew all of our street stripes down the middle. So that's really been really quite productive. If you've been keeping up with the production of this, with the drawing like I'm doing right now, well, that's tremendous work, and you've done a really good job. And so at this time, the rest of what we're going to do is not really going to require the use of our vanishing point anymore, although some lettering may, and you will always know where it's at because, of course, we've talked about it 1 mazillion times now, so you know it's right there at the end of the sidewalk. And we're also going to just enhance that by starting some interesting background material. We'll all have pretty much the same looking picture and the same town, but it's a good idea to come up with a theme while we're working on this. Right now we'll start thinking about it. So our next task, and I am going to use a slip sheet here because my hands are dirty and I don't want to continuously smear up my drawing here. Okay, so we're going to come all the way down to the end of the street here, and we're going to draw, I'm going to dot along basically something that appears to be an upside down horseshoe, or a capital letter U, just upside down. And as I dot along with this, it helps me get the kind of shape that I really want without having to commit to it right away. But if I get the shape I want, then I can simply bold it. So it's a variation on a sketching technique. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. We want it to be symmetrical, so it looks like both sides of the tunnel that we're drawing here will match symmetrically on both sides of the road, so that we don't have one side of the tunnel really wide and the other side of the tunnel not so wide. Okay, so it should be here, they should be meeting at the same spot. Okay, now we're going to do that exact same maneuver again, and we're going to put a slightly wider upside down horseshoe, or capital letter U if you want to think of it that way. So now if it lands right there on your church, then don't sweat it. We'll just let it disappear. It'll be obscured by the last building on the right, City Hall, school, library, whatever it is you want it to be. Okay, so I'm just going to continue to see, mine is hitting right there, but it's probably really right on that line. So we'll just let that line function as its line as well. It will look fine. Okay, I've got that dotted in pretty much the way I like it here, and so I'm going to continue drawing, bolding my line. And if you're not happy with it, then you simply just keep adjusting it until you get the dotted line that you really believe in, and then go back and bold it. But I'll tell you what, you make one aggressive mark with your pencil and it's not right, or it looks funny, Now, it's kind of difficult to fix it. So a lot of sketching, when you see people throwing down a bunch of really loose, lightly drawn lines, is that they are looking to find the shape in that group of loose lines that they're looking for. And when they find it, they bold that line and they erase the other stray lines. Unless sometimes those stray lines, they give you an insight into something else. I would have never thought of that. Okay, so my tunnel looks pretty good down there at the end of town. But why would we have a tunnel unless it was going through something? And in the case of this particular town, it is going through a mountain. Now on the physical classroom, if we were together in there, I've got examples of this hanging up above the chalkboard, and there's one on the door of my physical classroom as we walk in there, and you'd see that. But it looks pretty much like this. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to start with our mountains. We're going to start, it's kind of tough to put them all in here, but we need a few. Let's see, let's find the point of our third building, the garage, I guess if we're going to call it that, or the fire department. We're going to come down just a little bit on that curve to about right here. And then we're going to draw, and we're not going to think about it too much because a mountain doesn't know what it looks like. It's just the way it is, and it's going to come down and stop at the top of the first roof in our triple roof building. Notice there's space above it. So from this building, the third building, is both on the third building, goes up, don't think about it too much, bring it down. Okay, that's the middle mountain. I'm going to erase this material because I don't think we need it anymore. If you're not drawing on a 12 by 18 inch piece of paper by now, you've missed a few things, and I'll bet your drawing looks funny compared to what you're seeing. Okay, let's get rid of that information. Not relevant anymore. Okay, now so let's start with our next mountain. And so we're going to find where it hits the top of that roof, and we're going to come up a little bit, and we're going to swoop it up, and it's not going to get to the top of the picture. It's going to swoop back down again and disappear over here into the first building on the right side of the street. Okay? And we're going to do a similar thing in the other direction over here. We'll start about right here. And this mountain, will all be kind of different, and that's very attractive. Okay, so we'll start about right here, and we'll just start swooping up, and we won't get to the top of the picture. We're going to start swooping back down, and in this case, that mountain will disappear behind the roof of the second building. So when you're drawing, sometimes, especially natural objects like mountains, you don't want to get so uptight about it that you can't make it look natural. And in this case, this is kind of a cartoon-looking town anyway, so you can get away with some of that. Now, there's some other things that we've traditionally put into this picture as well. And one of them is the sun rising or setting in behind the mountains. And this was originally conceived of, it was inspired by the Great Seal of the state of Ohio, which is originally from Chillicothe, Ohio, southeast Ohio. And the Great Seal of the state of Ohio has some mountains in the background, and rising above those mountains, or it would be rising because we're looking to the east, is a radial sun. It's like a sun with beams, very distinct beams coming out of it. So that has inspired me to include that in our artwork here. So I'm going to simply protect my drawing here, and we're going to draw in this notch right here between the mountains, this valley. I'm going to draw a rather large arc, which is a portion of a circle. There's going to be space between the arc and the top of the picture, as you can see. So that would be our sun, either coming up or setting. Now, in the very top of this, we're going to have a beam coming out. So two diagonal lines, about like this. Same tilt if you can make that happen. And then where that exits, where those two meet, excuse me, we'll erase that part away. And so that would be the sun and its beam. Dust this off. Now I'm going to freehand this, but you might want to use a ruler for it. I'm going to come a little bit about the same width as we can make, if we can estimate that, to about right here. And we're going to make another line that's tilted away at an angle. And then about this same distance again, about right here. And we're going to draw a diagonal line, and it leaves the top of the picture. Now where these two come together and touch the sun, we'll erase that away. So what we're getting here, or what we're attempting to achieve, is the appearance that we've got a sunbeam, the sky showing through, and then another sunbeam. We'll do this operation over here again. And we want to estimate about the same distance if we can. It looks like it'd be about right here if you ask me. So I want to draw a tilted diagonal line. And I'm freehanding this, but you may want to use a ruler. About the same distance as we estimate here. Probably about right there. I'm going to tilt that line diagonal. It's a straight line, it's just diagonal. Okay, and just like we did with the first sunbeam and this sunbeam, we're going to erase it right here. Okay, erase it. There we go. Now, let's move on here. So, we can see what we've got, which is a sunbeam, the sky, a sunbeam again. Now we're going to just fill up the rest of the sky with diagonal lines that would simulate the alternating appearance of these sunbeams and of the sky. So if there were one down here, it would appear like over in here somewhere, behind the mountains. And then there would be another one over in here, about like this. And it would be a little bit more dramatically tilted, like spokes on a wheel or a bicycle tire. So I'm going to bold that up. So see, it would go sunbeam, sky, sunbeam, sky, sunbeam, sky. Get it? It's really quite simple when you know how it's done. Okay, let's do the same thing in this direction. So we want these beams to be about the same width if we can make them come out that way. And then they tilt a little bit more dramatically each time. Okay, so it would go like this. It would go sunbeam, sky, sunbeam, sky, sunbeam, sky, sunbeam, sky. I think that's how it works out over here too. Sunbeam, sky, sunbeam, sky, sunbeam, sky. So sky on the end, so both of them. Okay, so see, that's looking pretty good. It looks like a series of sunbeams and a sun setting behind or rising behind the mountains, depending on which town you're in and where it's located at. Now, the last thing we're going to do in all of this is we're going to place a cloud in there, and a lot of people struggle with this, and we used to put it over here, but it always looked like a building was on fire that way. So we're going to try to draw a cloud in, and it might actually cover some of the mountains up there as well. So don't think about it too much, but let's just think cloudiness if you have to. And I don't think about it too much. I just start drawing random curves. A cloud does not know what shape it is. It's just the shape that it is. And we want this cloud to kind of puff along. You know, it's kind of a happy cloud. It's not like a a storm cloud of any sort, or like smoke from something that's a cataclysm that's taking place somewhere. It's just a cloud in the sky. That's all it is. So in this case, it's going to go over top of where my mountains meet, but that's okay. Now remember, it's behind the building, so it's going to obscure some of that information. And then if we just end it right here, then we can erase the portions of the drawing that are obscured by the cloud. And it can't be this little weak cloud. It's got to be a rather large cloud. When we get to the point where we start putting color onto this, you've got to be able to get some color in it. And you can't just, you know, have this little tiny puff of cotton ball cloud. It's got to be kind of a proud cloud. Alright, let's see what we've got there. I like my cloud. It's more stylized, you know, meaning it doesn't look like an actual photograph of a cloud, but I'm okay with it. I think everybody understands what they're looking at from a visual standpoint. Alright, so when I get this touched up here and bolded, I may go and bold a few more things in my drawing. This right here has to be slightly erased out, because that little part of the cloud that obscures the edge of that mountain is part of the attractiveness of it. And this one too, right here, will have to be touched up a bit. So, okay, and maybe the edge of this. So you're constantly trying to fix lines, you know, going back and trying to, you know, perfect the effect you're trying to get when you have overlapping images and you want people to see it a certain way, because we're trying to communicate. If you do recall, a drawing is simply a form of communication. Okay, this is looking pretty good. Line's pretty nice and tight. Let's examine what we've got here. Okay, so what we've got here is the basic drawing now. Perspective, you know, buildings on each side of the street with numerous complicated windows and such. So now your task is to take some sort of a theme, and you're going to draw in information on your buildings, signage. We're going to put in maybe a flag here and there, or windows. Of course, every building has to have a reason. Every door has to have a window. If you use windows such as this or like this, you'll have to use the vanishing point down here. You might have to draw it back in. But if you use windows like diamond shapes or ovals, in this case over here, then you won't necessarily have to do that. So you need to spend some time coming up with some sort of a theme that's happening in your town. And I've seen a lot of interesting ideas over the years with this, and a lot of people, they make it into towns where they have vacationed periodically, but as long as it's fit for school and it doesn't contain any offensive material whatsoever in it, then it's fine with me. So I'm going to start thinking about my own theme here. And a lot of stuff has been on my mind in the news and things lately, but maybe I just really don't need to go that route with it. Maybe I can go with, you know, some sort of a town where you can escape from all of this. And I think I might go with something, maybe some TV shows. I've seen people do cartoons before. I've seen a lot of natural disasters. I've seen movies that were done on this. I've seen people go with the Olympian gods, which I always thought was a neat idea. That's been done many times. I've also seen people turn this into a medieval town or a Old West style town. I've seen one side of the town is all tore up and the other side of the town is being redeveloped. So you just got to come up with an idea. During elections, we saw last time, you know, Clinton versus Trump on one side like that. So you just got to come up with some ideas, okay? And I think what my idea is going to be, and we'll see if you can figure it out as I go along here, but I'm going to have an idea here pretty soon, and it's going to go like this. Let's think. Well, that's a good one to try to think about, isn't it? Thought about some TV shows, thought about maybe all the lives, all of the jobs I've had in my life, and what kind of, you know, each one of those could be represented by that. I could, each of these buildings could simply just be a town as well. So, here's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to go with jobs that I've had in my life, okay? And so we're going to call this I'm going to put like a billboard on my mountain. Let's see. We'll make it. It's going to be a pretty good sized billboard. Okay. Okay, that's pretty good. And we're going to put a. So you got to use words sometimes to express what you're trying to get across to people. And in this case, it's going to be a billboard way off in the distance there on the mountain. It's going to have some, you know, foliage sticking out from it, probably. Okay, and so, what would it say? It would say something about, if I wanted this to represent all of the jobs that I've done in my life, I would call it that's a good question. I'd say something like leaving. Okay. Now you got to make sure when you use words you spell them right. Nothing says you don't know what you're doing of misspelling a word. That communicates something too. So I'm leaving here, and what I'm leaving is this will be pretty much a representation of the jobs that I've had as a individual, starting back when I was a kid. So I don't know if I'll even be able to get all of them in there, but we're leaving, and I want to call it Jobs Town. Okay, so that's going to be my theme, and all of these buildings will have to have something to do with the jobs I've had. I don't even know if I can get them all in there. Huh. Okay. Okay. Now I may want to go back and, you know, work on my signage a little bit here, but I'm thinking this will get me going. Okay, so you're leaving Jobstown. That would be a representation of all the jobs I've had in my life. Man, I gotta think about this. I've had the same job now for decades, but when I was in high school and college, I had a lot of different jobs. Okay, let's get some of that stray marking out of there. Touch it up a bit. And start coming up with some ideas. So, when you get to be my age, you'd have plenty of ideas for your Jobstown, if that's what you're going to use. But your theme is going to be different than my theme, probably based on your life and experience. But it looks like Jobstown is in the hills there somewhere. So, at least in the mountains. Okay, so what I would do with this myself now, and I will go back and I will fix that up a bit, because it gives me a good idea, but it's just not exactly the way I want it. So I'll go back to that. That S is really got to be pronounced, but I'm going to erase a lot of that. So one of the very first jobs I ever had, believe it or not, was I was a paper delivery boy. And so I used to have newspapers, and so I think I'm going to make this into my my newspapers. So how would I delivered the Journal Herald in the morning, and then later on I also worked for the Dayton Daily News as well. That was an afternoon paper. So let's see. If I wanted to turn this into, I'm going to use, see, the boxes will help you get your lines set up so that you can maybe turn, I've got a kind of N-E-W-S. Okay, here's what I want to do. So since I want to make papers or newspapers, I'll have to go N-E-W-S. That's 4 letters, right? So I got to divide this box, and I've got to divide it again. I've got to divide it again. Now I just so happen to know that the next to last letter is a W, right? So it's going to need a little bit more space. That would be this one. So what I want to do is I want to fit my letters into these boxes, and I'm going to use simply line letters, although if I had bigger spaces I would use what you all call bubble letters, but I call block letters. Oh, wait a minute, that's not an O. I'm trying to draw an E. So what I'm trying to get across here is one of my first jobs was a newspaper deliverer. I had a newspaper route. And I think you had to be 11, but I was only 10 at the time. I would be 11 soon. But I got to substitute on a route for a kid down the street that I knew. And so I did a good job as a substitute. So we had an interview. It was the strangest thing, and my parents had to sit through the interview with me. And so the lady came to my house, and we sat in the front room, and they asked me questions, or she asked me questions, and I told her that I'd be 11 soon. And so anyways, she said, based on the way I handled the deliveries as a substitute, that she said she'd go ahead and hire me. And now my parents would only let me deliver papers though in the summertime. During the school year I wasn't allowed to do that. Every year for I think the next 4 years after that I delivered newspapers, and really did quite well as a kid. I always had cash as a child. Okay, now news. Okay, and as you can see, these letters are getting a little bit larger as they get closer to us. And that's okay, because that's how it's supposed to look. Things that are closer to you appear to be larger. So these letters are closer to us, and so therefore they appear to be larger. Okay, so news. Okay. Okay, how do I want to say this? P-A-P-E-R. That's 5 letters. That's going to be a tough one, so we got to start with the middle stripe. This is P-A, and then we can split these in half and in half. And so it goes P-A-P-E-R. Okay, let's see if I can get that in there. So if we split it kind of like this, we can put a little bit of letter in each block. See, so I'm going to leave a little bit of space around it. News. And then A. So your letters sometimes, see, have to be skinnier than they are in other cases so that they'll all fit inside the boxes that you've created. But the boxes are important so that all of the lettering is equal. And that's why you have to, first of all, know how to spell it before you kind of start drawing it in there. You'll make a mess of it. And even though I'm simply using simple line lettering in here, okay, you might want to use block lettering, or you might want to use what you all call bubble lettering. Okay, newspaper. And this is almost like the letter P as well. Now, I've got a specialized little eraser I use just for fine work like this. So I can go back and clean parts of it up and then rebold it where I need to. But, so, you know, we're going to, for the next few days, this is what we're going to be doing. You got to come up with a theme, and then you got to start drawing details. We call it detailing it out. Details into this picture that we've spent this entire last like 5 sessions creating. So here we go. So now I can go back and I can bold my lines, and it can look like it's actually a sign that's on this building rather than just a bunch of stray words. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Newspaper. I'm going to say D-E-L-I-V. Another 5. So I got to start in the middle. And split. And then split again. And I'm just going to say D-E-L-I-V. For like delivery. Here, let's just split that so it goes uphill slightly, so we get the upper and lower portion of our letters nicely done. So yeah, I was not even 11 years old when I kind of got my first job there. Later on, I would, and maybe that'll be in here too in subsequent sessions, when I talk about later on jobs. I don't know if I can actually put every job I've ever had in here at my age. I've had so many jobs over the years, especially when I was in high school and college. I was a dishwasher for a while. That was a terrible job. I think I got fired from that job, as I recall. And I wasn't all that upset about it, that's for sure. So I had was a newspaper, and there was things, you know, newspaper delivery too, man, in the mornings. That route with the Journal Herald started, the lady dropped my papers off at 4:30 in the morning. And I'd go out and start delivering papers at 5 in the morning. And on a bicycle, man, it was dark and scary, and I'd make a habit of staying up on some late nights to watch scary movies in the summertime, and then I'd go out first thing in the morning into the dark. We had like 0 street lights in our neighborhoods. It was kind of scary. In the dark, lots of woods, 1 street light about every 400 yards. Okay, so newspaper delivery. It looks like it says deli. Yeah, that would be a good time to have a deli first thing in the morning. Oh, there's the bell already. Okay, R-O-U-T-E. I get all these 5-letter things. So we'll finish up with my first job there was I had a newspaper delivery route. That's what that all means. And let's tilt this downhill and keep detailing it out over the next few sessions. And maybe we'll maybe talk about how to put some curtains in windows. If you've got like an apartment complex, maybe that'll be on one of my places I've lived. That could be another one that would make a great theme for something like a project like this. All the places that I've lived, or all the places that I've been when I was in the military. All of these are all the places you've been on vacation. That would be a good one too. But now that I've started with my Jobstown, that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to stick with my original idea, because that's what you got to do when you got a job to do. Newspaper delivery route. That was my first job. I had responsibility. I wasn't even quite 11 years old. Okay, let's get that kind of touched up a bit there. And although I am using simply line letters, which are letters that are drawn with lines, that would be fine as long as it looks like it's drawn with intention, not just scribbled in there. Okay, and then lastly, alright. Okay, well, I think that's all we got time for today, so make sure you're coming up with a theme, and we're just going to keep on drawing, and that will be for about 2-3 more sessions until we get it all detailed out and we have something really meaningful going on in our drawings there. So I'll see you in the next session. Have a nice day.